Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Championship Leadership Podcast. This is your host, Nate Bailey, and we got Jason Beim here with us from New York City. Jason, I appreciate you being here, man. Thank you so much for taking some time.
Thank you so much for having me on. It's an honor anytime I'm invited to come on a podcast, and your podcast is great, one of my top favorite podcasts. So it's honoring and it's a humbling experience being on here.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, thanks for listening and thanks for reaching out to be on. It's it's an honor to have you. So I'd like to start this out. First question: Championship Leadership is the name of the podcast. What comes to mind for you? What does that mean to you when you hear Championship Leadership?
Like I said, this podcast is really one of my favorite ones. I've been listening for a while now. And even though I knew this first question is going to be what you were going to ask, it doesn't really make answering that question any easier.
Yeah.
It really made me think long and hard about how I was going to respond, because championship leadership is such an amazing thing. And the first thing that comes to mind immediately when I think of championship leadership is Navy SEAL Jocko Willink. Because you can see above me, I got the Discipline Equals Freedom banner rocking. Jocko is a tremendous influence in my life. And regarding leadership, he preaches that there are certain dichotomies that come into play. And on leadership, he stated that a leader must lead, obviously, but also be ready to follow.
Yeah.
They must be aggressive, but not overbearing. A leader must be calm, but not robotic. They must be confident, never cocky. A leader must be brave, but not foolhardy. And they must have a competitive spirit, but also be a gracious loser. And this quote to me really sums up leadership perfectly. And it just reinforces the fact that leadership is both the problem and the solution to everything in every aspect of our lives.
Yeah.
Another thing that comes to mind is the fact that there are no bad teams. There's just bad leaders.
Yeah.
So championship leadership to me means that you give people a reason to want to follow you, right? Just because your business card says CEO, that in and of itself doesn't make you a good leader. And even if you're not directly leading others, you're still the leader of yourself. So before you can even begin to lead others, you need to be able to lead yourself first. And you also need to be able to be led. The best leaders are those people who subordinate their egos and take input from others. And you need to give people a reason to want to follow you. And the way to do that is by leading yourself first. And that's what championship leadership means to me.
Amen, man. I love it. That's an incredible definition of championship leadership. I love hearing all of the different definitions that we get from our guests, and it's almost never the same. So Jocko's incredible. I love Jocko, his stuff. Hopefully we'll get him on the podcast here sooner than later. And I love his content. I've taken a lot from him and how I show up as a leader. And you gotta follow, being a great leader is being a great follower, and it is everything. Leadership is everything. Right now, we got people leading in great ways, and we got some leading in some non-powerful ways. Like you said, we're always leading, whether that's a good example or a bad example of how to lead. And right now, for those that are listening, it's June 5th, so 2020, amazing year that we've had so far.
Yeah.
COVID and then of course the death of George Floyd and all the tragedy in that and the protesting, and then of course the rioting and the looting on top of that. So and you're in the heart of that, Jason, man. You guys have been getting crushed with all of it, like just probably harder than anybody, just of course because of how New York City is set up and packed in and you're on top of each other, which is probably amazing to live like that. But also when there's something like what we've been experiencing over the last 3 or 4 months, it can be really challenging. So
For sure.
I can only imagine, man. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about you and your story, and like just kind of the path you've been on and how you've gotten to where you are today and what it is that you are up to today.
Sure. Thank you so much. So, like I said, before we recorded, you've had some monsters on this show, and the people are looking at my picture and my name. They're like, who the hell is this character? Let me alleviate your concerns and put your fears at bay. I am nobody. I'm nobody special. I'm just an average Joe. Put my pants on one leg at a time like everyone else. The only thing that separates me is that I've essentially been conquering and overcoming my entire life. So real quickly, we'll run through my story. Grew up 25 miles outside of New York City, a perfect family upbringing, have 2 sisters. Parents were super supportive, never wanted, never needed for anything. But the main issue that I had as a child was I had this deep-rooted need and desire to be liked and accepted. So naturally, at a young age, that led me to sports, right? Sports is a great outlet for kids to learn all these natural, skill building, leadership tactics, teamwork, all these things that are necessary to forge a strong child. So I'm naturally not the strongest, tallest, fastest by any means, and I have always had to work exceptionally hard at everything that I needed to do. So I'm a type A personality, and being not the strongest or the tallest, I rode the bench a lot, and I never really liked that. So, once sports was over, I needed a new outlet. So sports was a positive outlet. Unfortunately, after the sports was over, I took that down towards a negative outlet. And I'm kind of this guy who jumps from group to group to group, trying to find whoever would accept me. So that took me down a deep, dark path into the drug world. So I became heavily addicted to drugs for a while, was, suffered with crippling anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, you name it. Mental health these days is a prevalent issue in society. And I went through it. And the turning point for me was not by my choice. It stems back to my deep-rooted need to be desired and loved. My first girlfriend, she said, "Hey, if you don't stop doing the drugs, I'm going to leave you." So I said, "Okay, no problem. I'll stop doing the drugs." And, I have this highly addictive mentality. So the key takeaway here is that I was not ready to change in that moment. So all I did was essentially morphed my one addiction into even worse addiction for me, and that was food. So I basically became a food addict. And even though I wasn't in jail, physically, I was trapped in my own body, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, a chain as a slave to drugs and food. So, the turning point for me there, and this is the key takeaway I want to take with your listeners, is you need to lead yourself. I wasn't a leader of myself because I was letting the drugs take over me. I was letting the food take over me. It wasn't until I saw my college graduation picture when I had proof, and that became my new why. That picture slapped me in the face. I stepped on the scale and it read 303. Yeah. And I'm a tiny guy. I'm 5'7". So they used to call me 5 feet tall by 5 feet wide. I knew the mind's a tricky thing. And this goes back to leadership as well. I knew in that moment when I saw that picture, nobody would take me seriously, because if I couldn't lead myself, how was I going to lead others? Right. So in that moment, I decided to make a change. So I went on this transformational journey, lost a ton of weight, and in the process, I've transformed my outlook on life and tried to understand what leading truly means. You need to give people a reason to want to lead you. And I've morphed all of these positive, and transformational journeys into my new coaching brand, Jump Above Boundaries. And we're basically an accountability coach, a discipline coach, motivational coach, and we're working with a ton of clients right now, and we're just trying to build a positive community so people know that, hey, yeah, I'm just an average Joe, but I've been conquering and overcoming some serious demons, and I can help you with that along the way. So that's kind of, the wave tops of my story, and what we're doing now with Jump Above Boundaries. We could dig in from there.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for sharing that and sharing your story. Who are some of the championship leaders that have impacted you along the way? And I know you mentioned Jocko, so it's probably one of yours, but less about who they are, but really what is it about them, the characteristics, and how is that maybe what have you taken from them to help kind of mold you into the leader that you are as well?
That's a great question. So yeah, Jocko's one of the main guys. It's the mindset aspect for a lot of these Navy SEAL guys and a lot of these military guys. I never served, but I'm a big supporter of the military and the LEO community. And we could really take away some great things from their mindset, the never quit mindset, and the attitude of forging through the difficult times. And what I've done at Jump Above Boundaries is I've used all my past experiences to come up with this model. And the name of my model is the discipline model, coming from Jocko. And these are basically values that peak performers live by in their everyday life. And we'll just go down real quickly. The D is dominate. I is integrity. S is self-accountability. C is conquer and overcome. I is internal motivation. P is pride. You're going to like this one. L is leadership of yourself and others. I is improve always. And my two favorite, the N and the E, is never quit and embrace the suck. Because when you never quit and you're embracing the suck and you're going through the hard times, that's when the most intense rapid regrowth occurs. So these are all, values that peak performers strive to live by. And this is what I've built out with that jump above boundaries.
I love it, man. That's beautiful. And so you taking photos of your wristwatch every morning, or what?
I'm not at that level like Jocko, but I am up before 5 a.m. every day. And I tell you what, I didn't start off that way. I'm naturally a night owl. So, the key takeaway there is that, you got to make a goal, but you got to make a goal that's attainable. So I didn't start by waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I started by waking up 15 minutes earlier and then stacking those wins on each other. So 15 minutes would lead to another 15 minutes to another 15 minutes. Next thing I know, I'm a morning person and I'm tackling the day when it's still dark out and most people are sleeping, right? That's a psychological win. You want to start off with your day with some type of win. What do most people do when they hear the alarm go off? They bang the alarm, they hit snooze, they turn back over for 10 minutes of more sleep, right? So you're subconsciously starting your day off with a loss by telling your body that you value 10 minutes more of not so good sleep over jumping out of bed like your ass is on fire and getting after the day. So yes, I am up before 5 a.m. even now, even during quarantine. I'm still sticking with my routines. It's so important just to be disciplined and consistent.
Yeah, a little context for those listeners that don't know, right? Like Jocko Willink, you follow him, his Instagram feed's pretty much filled up with him with pictures of his wristwatch saying like 4:30, 4:32, like, every day when he wakes up, he takes a photo as inspiration for others to kind of leads by example through that, and also probably followed up by like a puddle of sweat after his workout right away in the morning.
Yep.
Yeah, so motivational guy. And the other piece to that really is you're not to that point yet. Just because Jocko does it doesn't mean that that's what you should do, right? I mean, you got to find what works for you. There's
exactly
power in getting up early, like you said, and starting off with that win in the day, but it doesn't necessarily have to be 4:30.
No, for sure. And that's the thing about leadership is there's no direct, model of how to lead. It's using what works best for you. Like you said, each person is different. You just got to know how to lead yourself first before you could even lead others. And you got to listen to your body. You got to do the right things that work for you.
Absolutely. So, tell us a little bit more about Above Boundaries and the vision that you have for yourself. It takes courage as a championship leader to have the vision and then actually execute on it. So what's kind of the impact and the path that you are on, short term, 5 to 10 years from now? Where do you want to be? What do you want to do? What's the impact you want to have?
That's a great question. And I'm still struggling with that a little bit myself. Well, I've been having this idea in my mind, fester in my mind for quite some time. And there's this quote by a mentor of mine, Bedros Keuilian, that says, action alleviates anxiety. And at some point, I decided that enough was enough. It's time to put this into action. So I do have a normal 9-to-5 job. I work in finance here in New York City, but this is more of my passion project. And the ultimate goal for me with Jump Above Boundaries was just to help people. Like you heard a little bit about my story. I think I've gone through things that everyday people can relate to. If you look at a lot of these great leaders, some of them are unrelatable because they're so high up there in the food chain that, normal people can't relate to them. And that's why I started off the show with saying that I'm a nobody. I'm just an average Joe, because I've been going through some things, and I want people who are feeling stuck in their life, who feel like they're in a rut, who feel like they can achieve more. I want them to know that it's possible. And I tell you this about my story, not to impress you, but to impress upon you that you can make a change for the better. And the ultimate goal with Jump Above Boundaries is I just want to help people. If I help one person, which we've already been doing, we got a bunch of clients who are super successful right now, completely changing their mindset. If I could just help one person, all of that will be worth it. I wouldn't trade my past in for anything, but I wouldn't wish anyone go through it because it was an incredibly dark, scary time. But now, I've gone through it. I've embraced the suck and I've waded through all the tough times. And now I'm fully equipped to help everyday people, average Joes and Janes, to reach their peak potential. So if anyone wants to work with us, you come over to Jump Above Boundaries. I give everyone a complimentary 30-minute consultation. We're just vibing back and forth, see if we're a good fit to work together. We'll put you through the discipline model and we'll get you operating at your peak performance.
Yeah. Well, first off, like, you're not a nobody. Let me say that, because that is the second time you said that. You're definitely somebody. And, I guess I've had some bigger name guests, like recognizable names, right? But like, they're no better than me or you. And that's why I just love, I don't care who you are. If you we all have a story to tell. So we all have stories. And it's just awesome to get to connect with people all around the world. No matter who they are or how big their name is, to hear their story, and because, like you said, if being on this podcast just helps one person, then that's all that I care about, right? So,
and you probably get a ton out of it as well, right? It's probably helping you by interviewing all these people and talking to all these incredible people.
Anyone, yeah, because I'm the one that does it, but hey, anyone can do that, right? Like, go start a podcast, and you can benefit just like I can, right? So, like, I don't know, where's your podcast, man?
A lot of people have been asking me that right now. I'm just trying to get the brand out there. Going on other people's podcasts is definitely not out of the question, for sure. What's that?
That's a great way to get your brand out there, by having your own show.
Exactly. And, it helps me, hone my message too, but it's definitely not out of the question. But when I get the Jump Above Boundaries podcast coming on, Coach Nate Bailey would have to be the first one to come on.
I'd love to. I will be there. Yeah, you let me know.
I'll hold you to that.
What, maybe you talked about it, but I'm sure, like all of us, we all have these significant moments in our life, these turning points, critical moments in our life where, had you decided something different, you could be in a very different place in life. And, when you're in this fork in the roads, no matter what decision you make, I think as long as you really own it and you just go with it, like, it still obviously can work out. But just having said that, had you made a different decision than you did, you very well could be in a much different place than you are right now, on the path that you are right now. The impact that you're making, the way that you're getting out there and you're hustling and you're being intentional and, like, reaching out and having no qualms about asking if you can come on people's shows and to spread your message and do what you're doing. Is there a moment that comes to mind for you that you can share with listeners?
My entire life has been a series of choices. That's all life is. Every step of the way, that's all it is. It's coming down to choices, making the right choice or the wrong choice. Sometimes those choices are not as defined and clear cut, but it's all about making choices. And deep down, what the right choices you need to make, right? So the main thing for me is, and I take it back to the drug time in my life. I was going down a deep, dark rabbit hole, but I thank goodness that I wasn't in a dark enough place. There was a thought that crept into my mind that said, so I was pretty addicted to these painkillers, which is essentially just synthetic heroin. And a thought came into my mind, hey, maybe heroin is the next option. And it was in that moment where I realized, wow, you have fallen so far from grace. Now it's time to make a change. But the key takeaway here is, if you're ready to make a change, that's when you're going to change and better your life. But you need to be ready to make a change. So another moment I could take it back to is when I was in my 5x5 years. My parents, God bless them, they did everything they could. They got me gym equipment. They got me personal trainers. They got me a treadmill. They tried getting me to eat healthy. They'd say, hey, let's go on family walks. I'd be like, no, I don't want to do that. And every time I'd go to these trainers or nutritionists, I'd weigh in and I'd always never lose weight. And they'd be like, why are you not losing weight? Are you following the program? I'd be like, yeah, I'm doing everything you told me to. I don't know why I'm not losing weight. But the reason was because I was not fully invested. I was not ready to make a change. I was just placating other people. So you need to be at the point where you're ready to make a change. And that's when things will improve for the better for you.
Yeah, that's huge, right? I mean, you hear it all the time, like, as much as it would hurt to say, even if it's someone very close to you that you really just care so much about, it's could be like you that was struggling with drug addiction. Like, there's nothing that you could ever do that's going to make them change until they actually want to make that change, right?
Couldn't agree more. I mean, you could give someone the tools as much as you want. You could talk to people until they're blue in the face, but if they are not ready to make a change, nothing's going to change. You have to be at a point where you call it whatever you want, bottom of the barrel, rock bottom. You need to get to a point in your life where the decision is made for you that you're sick of living life in the current situation, and you're going to make a change for the better. And that's all talking about leadership. You need to be able to lead yourself and have those difficult moments and have those difficult conversations with yourself, because if you can't lead yourself, no one's going to take you seriously, because you're never going to be able to lead yourself or others.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a coach, you're coaching people as well as, you know, you're a leader, not a savior. And a lot of people want to be saved, but depending on your beliefs, like Jesus Christ is the only savior, and he got crucified, right? So
That's right.
People want to have somebody to blame all the time. So when you're ready to change is the time to absolutely then go get the coach, because they can absolutely help you to speed up that trajectory, that path to get to where you want to go quicker. So that's the place for the coach or the mentor when you're ready to do the work. And once you're ready to do the work, they can absolutely guide you, and you can learn from their past mistakes and bumps on the road and their experiences and wisdom to help you get there faster, and maybe skip a few of those bumps along the road too. So that's important as well.
Absolutely. I mean, that's all I'm trying to do with Jump Above Boundaries now is take my past experiences and my 10-year transformational journey and just helping people who feel stuck. The key thing is you don't need to go it alone. A lot of people feel like nobody understands them in this world. They feel like they have no one to talk to. They feel like they're just stuck and they can't make a change. But I promise you, there's people out there who are willing to help. And I'm coming from a place where, prior in my life, I would have looked at this as just a money grab. I used to be an egotistical maniac who was, driven by the fame and the power and the money and the success. Now, all I care about is helping people, because I think we need more of that in this world. I mean, we're being bombarded with negativity on a daily basis. And, if I could be that positive light for someone and bring them out of the darkness, everything that I went through will be worth it.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, 100%. We're coming up on our time here. I want to ask you one last question as we kind of start to wrap this up. There are one or two things that you could give to the listeners to help them, like if they were to implement today, would help them move forward today. What would those be?
Okay, so I mentioned this earlier. You just got to start. We're being bombarded, like I said, with negativity. You got to start off your day with some type of psychological win. So Admiral Bill McRaven wrote a great book, and it was based on a commencement address he gave at the University of Texas. It's called Make Your Bed. And it's not actually about making your bed. It's about doing something and being consistent and having the discipline to do something first thing in the morning. So if you make your bed first thing in the morning, no matter how the rest of your day goes, at least you had that accomplishment and no one could take that away from you. So use that metaphor and use it with anything, be it not hitting the snooze button, using some type of psychological victory to start your day off, because once the rest of the world is up, you're going to be pulled in all different types of directions. You're probably going to have some bumps along the way. What you want to do is you want to start off your day with a psychological win. And it's not about making these changing transformations overnight. All you have to do is make these small little 1% incremental changes, these tiny little changes in your life. And as you stack them on each other, they become into bigger goals, right? So like when I knew I had my weight loss journey, I knew I needed to lose over 100 pounds. But if I looked at it and said, oh my goodness, I can't lose 100 pounds by tomorrow, that's an insurmountable task. I had to break it down into bite-sized chunks. You ever hear the saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
That's right.
Right? So break things down into bite-sized chunks where you're getting a psychological win, stack those on top of each other, and your days and your life will be better for it.
Yeah, I love it, man. Thank you. What are a few ways that we can find out more about you and what you got going on and Jump Above Boundaries? Or how can we follow you?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So the personal is it's Beim time. My last name is Beim, Beim, rhymes with time. So it's Beim time is the personal. And the jump above boundaries is at jump above boundaries. We got our Instagram going. That's the best way to connect with us. If you or anyone out there is struggling, needs someone in your corner to build you up, we are going to be that for people. We have a ton of clients right now who are doing some incredible things. And it's selfish for me as well, because I get to see these people grow and better themselves, and it makes me feel good knowing that I'm helping people as well. So everyone who reaches out to me gets a complimentary 30-minute session with me directly. So if you feel like you're stuck and you don't know how to move forward, come over to Jump Above Boundaries. We'd love to help you out and get you on the right path.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate that. And that's incredible. So take advantage of that as well. If you're listening and you need that bump, that start. So appreciate you, Jason, for taking time to be here today, especially on a Friday. And just thank you so much, man.
Thank you, Coach. It's been an absolute honor, and I can't thank you enough. You have a good night.
Yeah, you too.